You hear the Republicans talk about big, beautiful bill. I think this is a big, ugly bill. Let's call it what it is. It is the largest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich in U.S. history. This reconciliation package proposes devastating cuts to Medicaid and SNAP.
Did you hear that? That right there. That's the classic squad playbook. It's the same old tune we always hear from Ilhan Omar and the rest of them. It's all emotion, all hysteria, and zero facts. Republicans are evil. They want to kill the poor. They're just helping their billionaire friends. It's a police state. I mean, come on. She is scoffing at the idea that the government might be wasting money. She wants you to believe that every single penny is being spent perfectly and that any attempt to find savings is just an evil plot. But hold on. Just wait, because Representative Brandon Gill is up next, and let's just say he didn't come to play. He brought the receipts. We're going to watch the whole thing, and I'm going to break down this absolute takedown. This is the kind of common sense we desperately need in Congress, folks. Before we dive into the full clip, if you're as sick and tired of the squad's nonsense as I am, and you want to see facts finally win out over feelings, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Let's get this in front of more people. All right, let's watch the whole exchange.
You hear the Republicans talk about big, beautiful bill. I think this is a big, ugly bill. Let's call it what it is. It is the largest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich in U.S. history. This reconciliation package proposes devastating cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. My Republican colleagues will tell you that they are just going after waste, fraud, and abuse, but let's be clear. The only way to slash this much safety net spending is by making it harder for people to survive. Their changes will kick millions of Americans off their health care and nutrition assistance. That means more untreated illnesses, more hungry children, more preventable deaths. This isn't just line items in the budget. There are people's lives, the sacrifice of human dignity and of life itself. And for what? So that your billionaire friends can get nearly $300,000 in tax cuts? This is not a serious budget. This is a green light for authoritarianism, for inequality to run rampant. It is a police state budget wrapped in billionaire tax cuts.
Mr. Gill from Texas is recognized for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, thank you for all of your hard work. I'm thrilled about this piece of legislation as it's getting started. This reconciliation bill, I believe, will balance. It will extend the Trump tax cuts for the working class so that they don't experience the biggest tax increase in American history, and it'll grow the economy. But of course, it will also help us to implement the Trump agenda, which is to clean up the chaos and destruction that Joe Biden unleashed on our country over the past 4 years. It will help us fund the mass deportation of illegal aliens who have been murdering and raping and pillaging American citizens. It will help us unleash our fossil fuel energy sector, and it will allow us to rebuild our military. And of course, it will help us implement DOGE, which this amendment targets, among other things. As DOGE has been rolled out, I think it's been a bit curious because I found that so many of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle have not been upset about the waste, fraud, and abuse that this process has uncovered. Rather, they've been angry that the fraud has been exposed at all. We found that for decades, the administrative state has been weaponized against the American people. We can give example after example of flagrant abuses of American taxpayer dollars. We've heard of some of them earlier, but I'll name a few more. $1 million spent to boost French-speaking LGBTQ groups in West and Central Africa through the State Department. Almost $50,000 on a transgender opera in Colombia, also through the State Department. Over $7,000 for a BIPOC speaker series in Canada through the State Department. I think it's worth noting that normal, sane Americans don't know what BIPOC means, and neither do I. $80,000 for an LGBTQ community center in Slovakia, and over $16,000 for a united and equal queer feminist discourse in Albanian society, whatever that is. And of course, we also know that our taxpayer dollars have been going to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars every year to fund left-wing media outlets like NPR and PBS, paying for welfare for illegal aliens, and paying for giving out payments to international organizations that are censoring and pushing for the censorship of American citizens. Our own federal government is using taxpayer dollars to promote ideologies that tens of millions of Americans find utterly repulsive. I think if the other side of the aisle has such a deep ideological opposition to this DOGE process, I challenge them to be straightforward with the American people and explain why taxpayer dollars should be funding queer feminist discourse in Albanian society or drag shows in Ecuador. I don't think that they will, but I would love to see it if they did. Elon Musk acting as an employee and an agent of the president, I think has certainly more democratic legitimacy than Anthony Fauci did, and he certainly has more democratic legitimacy than the nameless, faceless bureaucrats who have been running our lives for several years, the waste of which he is rooting out currently. President Trump here with DOGE is doing exactly what he was elected to do. DOGE is a part of the Trump mandate. It's extremely popular. In fact, Elon Musk and the DOGE movement right now are polling at a higher approval rating than Joe Biden had on his way out of the White House. President Trump, of course, is polling at record numbers.
All right, so we just watched the whole thing. Let's break this down. First, you get Ilhan Omar's full speech. It's exactly what you'd expect. Devastating cuts, more hungry children, more preventable deaths. This is what they always do. The far left cannot debate on the merits. They can't. They have to go straight to emotional blackmail. They want you to believe that any attempt to balance our out-of-control budget is the same as pushing old ladies off a cliff. She is literally protecting every single dollar of government spending by saying if you cut anything, children will starve. It's dishonest, and frankly, it's insulting to our intelligence. And then Representative Brandon Gill gets the mic. And this is just perfect. He doesn't just argue. He doesn't just say, "Nuh-uh, you're wrong." He brings the actual literal receipts. He starts off by calmly explaining what the bill actually does. It extends the Trump tax cuts. You know, the tax cuts that gave most working Americans a break. The ones the left still calls billionaire tax cuts, even though we all saw our own paychecks go up. He talks about securing the border, which the squad thinks is racist. He talks about unleashing American energy, which the squad thinks is killing the planet. These are common sense things that normal everyday Americans want. But this next part is the knockout punch. This is what they never want to talk about. Omar says there's no waste, fraud, and abuse. She acts like that's just a Republican fantasy. Well, Brandon Gill just opens the book, and he reads off a whole list of these flagrant abuses of our taxpayer dollars. I mean, you heard it. Money for a transgender opera in Colombia. Money for queer feminist discourse in Albania. Money for a BIPOC speaker series in Canada. And he's 100% right. By the way, most normal Americans have no idea what that even means, and they shouldn't have to. This is the waste, fraud, and abuse that Ilhan Omar and the squad pretend doesn't exist. This is the stuff she is protecting when she screams, "You're killing children." She is, by default, defending your tax money being spent on this stuff. And Gill's challenge at the end is perfect. He dares them. Go on. Go tell the American people why their hard-earned money should be funding queer feminist discourse in Albania. Go tell the folks in your district who are struggling to pay for gas and groceries that their money has to go to these radical globalist pet projects. Of course they won't. They can't. They'll just go back to the microphone and scream, "You're killing the poor," all over again. Folks, this is the difference right here. It's night and day. One side, Omar's side, uses pure, fact-free emotional hysteria. The other side, Gill's side, brings a list of actual insane government spending and asks, why are we paying for this? The squad doesn't want to govern. They want to lecture. They think your money is their money, and they get to spend it on whatever radical, woke ideology they want, anywhere in the world. Brandon Gill just exposed that, clear as day. This isn't about helping Americans. It's about funding their ideology with your bank account. What do you guys think? Did Gill nail it or what? Let me know in the comments which one of those spending items was the craziest to you. This was a huge win for common sense. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.